All right, welcome to the Dales Report. Happy to be joined once again to the show. Daniel Cohen, CEO of PharmaDrug. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Excellent. Summer is flying by. I love the weather this time of year, but excitement building as we head into Q4 of this industry, is it not?
Yeah, you know what? I was expecting to have a little bit of downtime this summer, but we've been
Not going to happen.
We've been working nonstop. We've been extremely busy. I mean, the markets aren't telling us that, but we've had so many things on the go. We've been working really hard, and you know, the next few weeks are going to show a lot of that in terms of press releases.
And I've been hearing a lot of that with a lot of companies right now. But patience, but I think it's going to pay off. A lot of stuff that's going to really start to materialize in the industry come October. So let's lead things off. Good news that was announced yesterday. As you said, a lot of hard work taking place. You entered into a clinical trial agreement with the Johns Hopkins University. First off, congrats. The agreement will focus on conducting a clinical study comparing psychological and neuro effects of DMT and an undisclosed active molecule. So walk us through the mission objectives and all of this and what you're hoping to obviously accomplish and how it helps expedite your clinical pipeline.
Yeah, so I mean, there's three things to talk about here. Firstly, the actual, you know, proposed trial itself, how it fits into our strategy and what we hope to be able to get out of it. You know, to start from the beginning, you know, when we picked up or purchased Serio, we said immediately that we wanted to start a program in psychedelics and in DMT specifically. And the best way to be able to do that was to surround ourselves with, you know, world-leading academics and to kind of create almost like a think tank internally. We started with, you know, Dr. Stephen Barker, a world-class academic in DMT, specifically on biochemistry or neurochemistry. Then we started the collaboration with the University of Michigan with Dr. Gimo, and that's obviously she's the one who had that groundbreaking research that showed that DMT is endogenously produced in the pineal gland. And we're collaborating with her, and now she's part of our group, just in terms of being able to discuss ideas and benefit from what she's working on. You know, so we had a chemist, we had someone who does really groundbreaking work in animal models, and then we said, well, you know, we always thought it makes sense to have someone that we could, you know, team up with that's doing work in humans, right? And so, you know, we reached out to JHU, and we probably hit them at the right place at the right time, because, you know, obviously this is probably the top of the pyramid in terms of academic research in psychedelics, if you would argue with that. But
why do you feel that? Why do you feel that way?
Sorry?
Why do you feel that way?
That department, Dr. Rowland is one of the first in terms of getting academic research done in psychedelics. He started in the late 90s. He's kind of like the beginning of the rebirth of the whole movement. And they are one of the most respected groups. The JHU Department for Psychedelic and Research is one of the top respected groups in the world. I think it's known. So, but you know, when we approached them, they hadn't really done much in DMT, but wanted to. So we hit them at the right place at the right time. We had been talking to them for actually struck the agreement a couple of months ago, but it takes time to get, you know, the press release, you know, through the channels and things of that sort. You know, but we're really excited. And this trial, so they're going to be, you know, getting it through the FDA to be able to get the approval. That's going to take about 6 months, but they've done this several times, so they know what needs to be done. You know, it's a very interesting, trial or research program, because what it's going to be doing is be looking at two different aspects that we find quite interesting. Firstly, there's going to be the dose escalation, so the macro dosing versus the micro dosing. Secondly, it's going to be looking at DMT and another psychedelic. We're not naming it because it's got to be a blind study, so we don't want, you know, the research out there or the news out there, so that people that we do the study on know what the other psychedelic is. But you know, so we're going to be looking at comparative psychedelics and dose escalation. So we're pretty excited about that. From our standpoint, you know, some people have had the question, how does that fit into what you're doing? Because we've been pretty clear about the fact that we're going to be focusing on non-neuropsychiatric indications. And definitely our work, which we're going to want to talk about next, is you know, focused on DMT in the eye. We also obviously have the orphan drug designation from the FDA for DMT with solid organ transplants. So that's more DMT as an anti-inflammatory as opposed to for neuropsychiatric indications. However, we do fit feel that this fits in properly because our strategy, like I said before, has always been about creating that internal intelligence. We don't just want to pick an indication that has had some anecdotal evidence and try to make it more clinical. We also want to understand the biochemistry of how DMT works. Really, how certain, receptor pathways respond to DMT. And so with this, with this program, this research program, it's not just going to be administering the DMT and the other psychedelic and then asking questions and observing. We're going to be doing, they're going to be conducting medical imaging, and we're going to be able to really understand what goes on in the mind and the brain after you put in the, after you administer the DMT or the other psychedelic. So it's really going to be focusing on the effects of it, as opposed to how does it treat a specific sickness. And so that's something we're really looking forward to. At the end of the day, it's not just what we get at the end, but it's the collaboration in terms of really understanding the work, putting the program together, starting to administer it, getting feedback, discussing the feedback. It's kind of like the working group, and just being able to do that with that team, I think is going to provide a lot of value. But, also at the end of the day, whatever we come up with at the end, we're obviously going to have the first rights to that IP. So, so there's lots to be had from this.
Interesting announcement you made, the research agreement with the Terry Saki Institution, and you're going to develop a drug delivery platform that, as you said earlier, related to DMT and eyes, but this aims to deliver psychedelic tryptamine-based pharmaceuticals, as you indicated, such as DMT. So this is for eye diseases. This is the first time that we've seen ocular indications like glaucoma being targeted by psychedelic compounds. Very interesting, to say the least. So how did this all start? And I guess, why is PharmaDrug excited about taking a leading position in this field?
So, like I had mentioned earlier, we've been really interested in DMT and its ability to act as an anti-inflammatory agent, or even an oxidative agent. Now, remember, we were saying from the beginning, there's lots of people doing really good work on anxiety, PTSD, depression, addiction, but people are already doing that work. We wanted to do something different.
Yeah, of course.
We saw early on, by dealing with Dr. Stephen Barker and dealing with the University of Michigan, the impact that DMT can have in, like I said, an anti-inflammatory manner. So, we quickly found that it made a lot of sense for solid organ transplants. We asked the FDA specifically for kidney, but they kind of broadened it out to all solid organ transplants, and we're still doing work on that and intend to push that forward. But our chief scientific officer, who's done a lot of work with receptor pathways, quickly identified that, glaucoma is an unmet need. We've known for a long time what causes glaucoma. It's an intraocular pressure, and that pressure goes on the eye and it causes vision blindness or vision loss. And so we've heard, even back in the day, the THC, one of the first things THC was used for medically was for glaucoma. There are a lot of drops out there. People put drops in their eye, and it can impact the intraocular pressure, IOP. The problem is that a lot of these drops have side effects, allergic reactions. Also, they're drops. People forget to put them in, so there's compliance issues. And the other major thing is that when you sleep, you're not putting the drops in your eye, and the pressure builds up. And a lot of people who do use the drug properly still end up with vision loss because the pressure builds up while they're sleeping. So we came up with the idea that, well, first of all, we're pretty excited. We've seen some literature that DMT can respond or can impact the serotonin pathway, receptor, and it's certain ones. And these certain ones can have an impact on the IOP. So we came up with the idea, if we can come up with a device in the eye, whether it's a plug, whether it's a lens, something of that sort, that can slowly release the DMT continuously, then you got yourself a good treatment. And so it wasn't hard to find the Terry Saki Institute. They're a world-class lab. I mean, if you do any research on them, just scratch the surface, you'll see that the people behind there are really high caliber. They came out of the lab was pulled out of UCLA. So we reached out to them, and they were actually quite excited. They have lots of IP in terms of delivery mechanisms. And so they already have one in mind. So we already have 6 or so different DMT formulations in mind. So we're already talking about which device that they have is best suited to fuse with what formulation we have. So first step will be putting those two together. Second step will be testing it, in kind of like a pure lab environment. And third step will be, testing it in a non-human primate or some other type of animal, probably a non-human primate.
Yeah.
And then once you get that should take about 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
And once that's done, then you got yourself a product that you go to the FDA and you're saying, hey, I got a device I want to take to trials for glaucoma. So, I think I told you last time, the key to, in our mind, the key to a successful commercial strategy for psychedelics, you need a unique indication, sickness that nobody else is going after. You need a unique formulation, right? We're not just going to use DMT. We're going to have a unique formulation of DMT that suits the purpose, A, for the device, and B, for the receptor. And thirdly, a unique delivery technology that you can patent. And so this is all encapsulated with this strategy with Terasaki. So, I think as we move this forward, people will more and more start to realize how impactful this can actually be. We're very excited about it.
It's great. Appreciate the 2 announcements. We'll catch up with you in part 2 later this week, but thanks for joining us here today.
Great speaking with you.